Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world to share their insight and expertise so we can all grow together. I am your host, Heidi and the co-founder of the Spotlight to Scale Accelerator, where we help businesses drive revenue by making sure they're seen as the authority and go-to expert in our industry versus just another product and service. And today we are talking all about sales. I love this topic. Not one of my favorite things when I started my business, to be honest. So I'm excited to be chatting with a professional today, Richard Harris with the Harris Consulting Group. Welcome, Richard, to the Business Growth Spotlight.
Thanks, Heidi. Thanks for having me. And let's maybe put air quotes around professional.
Okay, air quotes. You're watching us.
I'm excited to be here. Yeah, I'm excited to be here, and like you, I'm an advocate to helping people figure out how and where they can help themselves. And I think you're a little bit like me too. Like every time we help someone, we end up learning something from that person anyway. So it's not it's a bi-directional thing every time I do things. So I'm super excited to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and day. We've been talking about some fun things that you do behind the scenes, and I can't wait to talk about that. But can you kick us off, Richard, by telling us a little bit about who you are, your company, your role within it, and what inspired you to start the Harris Consulting Group?
Yeah. So I've been doing sales all my life. I'm one of the few people who knew I was going into business and say, well, I wouldn't say business, but into sales, right? My dad sold insurance. My mom sold radio advertising back when that mattered. She's now a financial broker. So I've kind of been surrounded by it, right? It was sort of innate in me, for lack of a better phrase. And, my first sales job was at the Gap in high school, folding clothes and learning color names and all that stuff. So that's sort of where it started. I've done everything from being an AE to an SDR to servicing my own accounts before customer success existed, and sales manager, director of sales, VP of sales, sales operations. Like I've got I always sort of call it a liberal arts degree in sales, where I've done a lot of the different tactics and strategies. Was in sales, all kinds of sales, and got into tech sales. And then my last real job, I would say, in 2012, company I was working for was really cool, and it got acquired by Intel, and they didn't need me. So I was, I call it I was fired, and that's how I started my business. But the reality is they hugged me out the door. They did a really nice thing and gave me some runway with healthcare and a salary for several months, so that my family and I didn't have to like freak out. Which that's how you should do it. When you do things. So. And then ironically, people just started calling me for advice. Like it was really weird. Then first thing I know, I've got a client for 30 days. The next thing I know, I've got another client for 30 days. And I'm like, holy cow, I'm making 6 months salary in 60 days. Like the world is telling me something. And so that's sort of how it happened. One begot the next, right? That's the quick version, right? I think I'm like you, Huddy. I don't really like to talk about myself. So anyway, I'll answer more, but I think that's a quick version of how I got to this place.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I have to tell you, we have a lot of similarities. I have a fondness for your mother because my first job out of college was radio sales.
Oh,
And yes, advertising, sales, and radio. And my first job ever was at the Gap.
Get out.
I worked in the mall at the Gap, first job ever.
So do you know Gap Act? Were they still teaching Gap Act?
I don't know what that. I don't remember. It
was
so long ago.
So that was the first sales process I ever learned.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, this is the late 80s when I was there. Or God, it was the mid 80s. As I like to say, I've been in sales since the last century, and since the 1900s. But it's greet, approach, product knowledge, add on, close, and thank you. That was my first sales process. So
I'm sure
I did not know we were kindred spirits. So that's cool.
We are. When you said that, did you see my face? I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I learned I hated the mall for so many years after that. And I quickly realized that I never wanted to be in in that kind of merchandising business. I just did. All I remember is folding clothes. That's from the moment I got there to the moment I left. But anyway, let's get to the rest to the good stuff. But that I had to share that. That was crazy.
That's
So,
funny.
Richard, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see sales teams making today, and how can they fix them? Because in order to quickly, as salespeople, we want to get that runway, like you said, we want to
Mhm.
get that runway of getting, especially if we're commission based, right? We want to get
Yeah,
those sales going, but there's a lot of mistakes that we may not know we're making in the process.
yeah. So this is a little bit more on the strategy side and maybe speaking a little bit towards sales leaders. It affects the sales team.
Mm.
Um, it the over reliance on AI and to think that AI is solving our problem is the first thing. You're over indexing on AI. That's the first thing. There are right places, and we can talk about that, of when and how to use AI, because it can be very helpful at the tactical level
Mm.
for the sales team and even the tactical level for the executive teams. The other mistake that people are making, and this is the mistake they've been making forever since you and I even started, which is conversations. They aren't teaching salespeople how to have conversations. And what that's really interesting too is you think about Gen Z and Alpha now that's coming up. And do you have kids or
I do.
you?
I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son.
Okay, so I've got the same age as both boys.
Mm.
They're lacking communication skills from A, COVID, and B, social media, because they're scrolling all the time. So they're coming into the workforce slightly more isolated without having to learn how to have a conversation. I still see this with people, as a Gen Xer, still not having. So the mistake that people are making is they're not teaching people the conversation, right? They're not teaching people the actual words to actually use in a conversation when it comes to sales. And so what I mean is there's a lack of conversation that directly affects conversion, meaning conversation that you're having with a potential prospect or a customer, if you're a customer success person,
Mm.
and not knowing how to have that conversation. And sometimes it's the difficult conversation or the pricing and discounting conversation, which leads to a lack of conversion. And now it's coming up more in the next generation of sales. And until AI can do that, and it kind of can, but until the human who's the buyer is fully trusting of the AI to sell to them, this conversation thing's a big problem. Big problem, in my opinion.
So
It's only getting worse. It's been bad, but it's getting worse.
yeah, and I have to say, there's something my kids always say that drives me crazy. It's when they
Yeah.
get on the phone with their friends and they're like, "Can you call?" And I'm like, "It's can you talk?"
Right.
But they use
Right.
different words, like "Can you call?" I'm
Right.
like, "You've already
Right.
called them. Now it's can you
Or
talk?" It's
like,
crazy.
and their whole but their whole, even for me, is like, what are you doing Friday night? Right. It's a whole conversation on Snapchat or text. It's not like the negotiation still happens of,
Mhm.
well, let's go here, or no, let's do that, or let's do the, but it's a different kind of communication. And that's not how you're communicating with humans. Right.
Right.
I had, this conversation with my 16-year-old. He hates email. Right. He's like, Dad, nobody my age uses email because they text. And I said, that's great, but let me talk to you about business. Guess
Mhm.
what? We communicate via email. So you better get with the program. Right. Like that's not changing in the next 8 years, in my opinion. Right.
No, and I hear you, and that drives me crazy with my kids too, because I'll go into if with their schoolwork, and the teachers
Yes.
email everything, and they haven't opened one email,
One. Yes.
thousands of emails that are like,
Yes.
if you just looked at your email every day, you would know if something is due today versus going by memory, because they don't write things down
Yes.
anymore on notebooks or
Yep.
anything. So I'm like,
Yep.
just check your email every day and then delete it when you're done, right? Or
Yes.
move it into a folder. So yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one with this battle.
No, no.
So you
But
brought up,
but the same thing is happening even now. And again, I think it's even, again, I'm not picking on the younger generation because Gen X is bad at it too. The biggest problem of conversations for Gen X and is essentially like, how do I have these uncomfortable conversations?
mm,
Right. And because they don't get to have them all. Like if you think about in sales, how often do you get to do the pitch? A lot. So you get your spiel down, your rhythm down, you got the conversation down. How often do you get to the actual discounting or pricing conversation? Not as much. So you're lacking practice. The same thing in interviewing skills. We're really good at certain parts of the interview, but when it comes to negotiating salary, well, because I don't get that far down the rabbit hole on every interview, I have a lack of practice, which then brings a lack of confidence.
Yeah. You brought up AI, Richard, and I was going to bring that up later, but let's do
Yeah.
it now. So you had mentioned there's a time and a place, or
Yeah.
how and when. So when is the right time for AI in sales, and how to best use it effectively?
Yeah. So right now, AI is a bolt on, right, to what we're doing. There's, I'm not going to name drop tools, but there are tools out there that are built for salespeople from the ground up that do that for them.
Mm.
However, the best part of AI in sales right now is research, providing advice on how to have a conversation, and handling all the mundane tasks, all the stuff about setting the meeting or adding your show notes, adding your notes to the CRM, all those little manual things that slow a sales rep down. That's where AI is really good right now, which then leads to a sales rep being able to spend more time prospecting or selling and being in front of the customer. That's where AI is really helpful right now.
Mhm.
And in sales, there are different size deals, right? There's the transactional one or two decision maker deals. There's 3 to 5 decision makers, and then there's like 6+ decision makers. The bigger the buying committee, the less likely it is they're going to trust AI to sell them in terms of the final step. Now, I know one of the things we're going to talk about, what's changed. We've always been saying that salespeople or that customers are more knowledgeable than salespeople. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. We've always been saying that customers are more knowledgeable coming into the sale. And to a certain degree, I believe that. And AI is helping them figure some things out. It might be helping them figure out their pains. It might be helping them figure out who to shortlist before they even start to have conversations. So that's happening. AI does not make buyers any better. And frankly, I don't think buyers are any better because buyers don't practice buying.
Yeah.
Guess what salespeople do? We practice selling.
Mhm.
So we are actually smarter, more intelligent. We know more about the buyer in many cases than they do, and their own pains more than they do, even if they use AI, because we
Mhm.
frame it differently. So there's a good place to use AI around all those things, around the communications, not for the communications. So anyway, so that's might be a long-winded answer with 3 different tangents, but there you go.
No, that was great. Thank you. And there's companies out there that are creating AI SDRs, so I'm curious of where that's going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So right now, and there are, like, that's one of the things I was alluding to, is that they're not, they are AI SDRs, but they can only do so much to get
Mm.
to the meeting point. I think the best tools out there are the ones that are helping the AI, helping the sales rep be better at their job. So if the tools
Right.
that help the SDR around the practice are better. Now, that means AI can help with messaging. It means that AI could theoretically send the messaging, stay on top of certain things. You know, I think that if you divide your customer list or your prospect list into, you know, your A customers, your B customers, and your C customers. Well, AI can handle all the C-level customers. It can do all the emails and the reach out and all that stuff.
Mm.
That's where AI, I think, is really helpful. And it can respond back and forth. But I don't want my AI, I don't think, yet going to the A-level players.
Right.
So because that's where a human touch is required. And I think the customer at A level, if I'm going to email, the CEO of Coca-Cola, it better have some level of personalization that's feels human, because I think those people can recognize AI. Like, the AI is still recognizable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think, yeah, the human connection is not gonna. I don't think is gonna go away. People still want that human connection, and I think that adds to the level of trust that
So I'm
buyers
going to,
need, right?
yeah. So,
Yeah,
and I talk about this a lot. Like, our job in sales is to get people to fall in trust with us,
right,
not fall in love with us. They might fall in love with what we do. They might
right.
fall in love with the service. They might fall in love with the outcome that I provide or the outcome that you provide, but they're not, we got to get them to fall in trust with us, because
Mhm.
they have to buy in before they do any buying.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
that's
that's
the
good.
big difference. Now, the one thing that I'm going to push back a little bit on the purchase, Amazon is conditioning us to not need salespeople,
Mm.
right? And so is Best Buy and all these other places. So our auto dealerships, you can go buy a car without talking to a human being, right? You can go
I
buy a
don't like that
$100,000
though.
car.
I feel like
I'm not
that
disagreeing.
for me, that type of purchase is personal to me because it's just
Right.
there's a process there and I want to trust the person I'm buying from.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
that's
it
me.
can't take the test drive for you, right?
Yeah.
Like you still got to go somewhere and test drive. Like I get it,
Yeah,
but you can do so much more research. Meanwhile,
me true.
where is our comfort level of how much we'll spend without talking to a human? That number keeps getting higher and higher, right?
Mm,
I remember you were around, it sounds like from when, they were talking about the first year that online sales was going to hit $1 billion for the
yeah,
holidays. I remember that in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? When Amazon was only selling books. But you could now go buy a $3,000 or $4,000 TV on Amazon. You don't need to necessarily go to Best Buy if you don't want to,
and you're
right?
right. And you don't think twice about it now.
No, you don't think so. So, and I think there are things that are at $5,000 or $10,000, and some people will buy a car. They'll go on. They'll put in all the things they want. They know what they want, and then they just have it sent to them. So it's happening,
Yeah,
and we're being conditioned to do it. Like the
yeah,
environment and the marketplace is conditioning us. We're not there yet, right? Again, I'll go back to what's called Delta Airlines. I don't think Delta Airlines is going to, you know, go purchase a massive security software for their thousands of employees without talking to some humans, because
right,
there's probably 20 people and 50 departments that have to approve that internally. Right.
right.
So AI is not selling that yet.
Yeah, you made me laugh when you said I remember when the internet was first came out and we were just they
Yeah.
were selling things on and my parents still make fun of me. I was
Right.
like
They
you
they
can
didn't trust
buy
it.
yeah, there I'm like you can buy have a Christmas tree delivered to your house
Right.
and they're like yeah, Heidi, it's called the internet. And this is
Yeah.
when I was young and it just came out,
Yeah.
it was new and I'm like a Christmas tree though? You can have a Christmas tree? Like
Right. You just
it
took away
floored
all my
me.
fun. You
Yeah, it
ruined
floored
all my fun.
right? I just
Right.
couldn't comprehend it. So
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, that's it's hysterical. So let's talk about buyers. And you said they have to fall in trust with you. How have buyers' expectation changed in the past few years? And what should sales professionals be doing to
Yeah.
adapt?
So I think there's a couple of things. First thing is, and I preached this for a long time too about this thing called the buyer's journey. There is no such thing as a buyer's journey, in my opinion. There's only a buyer's experience through a journey created by sales and marketing.
Mm,
If I'm a buyer, I'm even if I go Google something, right? Hey, I want sales training, right? Well, they're either have had an experience or they're trying to avoid a negative experience around sales training. So it starts with an experience. Then they enter a journey that we create. How many times have we all gone and Googled something, and for whatever reason, the ad on Google is the one that worked for us, that spoke to us, or, one of the 10 magic blue links, right? So there's only a buyer's experience and a seller's journey. So that's the first thing I think people need to understand. I think the other piece is that, again, what I mentioned to you before is that the buyer comes in thinking they're smarter, but they aren't. And I
mm,
say this because I ask people all the time, well, what is it you need? And they're like, we need prospecting training and sales training. Well, that's really not the right answer. I know that. What I need to do, and this is where salespeople get better. This is the conversation part of, okay, but what part of prospecting do you need help with? Is it you need to find data, phone numbers? Is it email addresses? Is it how to write an email, a subject line, the body, right? Is it cold calls? Your team doesn't know what to say when someone picks up the phone other than throw up. So they don't even know that. They don't realize it. And then when I say, well, how much is it costing you to not fix this problem? And we walk through a process I do to help them figure that out. Um, they've never looked at it from that perspective. So that's why I don't think that they're that much smarter
mm.
than they like to allude to, or that, the marketing people and the Gartners of the world want to say that they are that much smarter. What they are looking for, which is what you said or asked, they are looking for a trusted advisor.
Mm.
They are not looking to be sold. They're looking to have a conversation that doesn't feel confrontational, right? They want a conversation, and they want someone to take the lead in an appropriate way to help them figure out what their pain is. And I say this all the time. Like within first 2 minutes of every first call I have, I will say, Heidi, at the end of this, through this process, you may find out that I'm not the right person for you, Heidi. And if that's the case, just tell me. And likewise, Heidi, if I can't help you, I'm going to tell you. If you ask me for something that I don't do, I'll tell you. And I'll even tell you who you should talk to. Because in sales training, we all know our swim lanes, and we all would rather, help you find the right person for you and put some good karma in the world than just take bad business and treat you poorly.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of getting them to fall in trust with us. As soon as they hear that, you can see it in a conversation. You can see it on the Zoom. You can see just some of that tension release, and they're so appreciative of that. So that's what they want. And they want someone who's going to be direct and honest and sincere and not bullshit them. Hope I can say that here. So
yes,
sorry.
you can.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more of being a guide than a salesperson, like really
Totally
giving them the support they need and moving through, asking the questions that you need to know as a quote unquote salesperson to get them to the result they're looking for, whether it's with you or with someone else. And I do the same thing, because I was like, I don't want to work with somebody I can't help. It's not going to help them, and it's not going to help me.
It's a waste of time for everybody.
It's a waste of time for everybody. And at the end of the day, when you release somebody to somebody else, guess what? That, especially to your network, those referrals are going to come back around.
Absolutely.
And then you're creating a win-win for everybody. And I always say we're better together. And that means supporting other people in the process. If I can't help you and I know somebody that can, I'm going to connect you with that person, because that person that you're helping and the person that you're connecting them with are all going to reciprocate if that person that you're helping knows a friend or a family member that needs you, guess where they're sending them? To you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's a complete
absolutely.
So you talked about the buyers. It's not a buyer's journey. It's a buyer's experience, but it is a seller's journey. And you have a book. So can you share more about your book? Why'd you write it? What can people expect from it? And where can we get it?
Yeah. So obviously you can get it on Amazon, right? That's the easiest place. But you can get it on any online bookstore, if you prefer, Goodreads or something like that. Some people don't want to go to Amazon. I respect that. So I wrote the book because I had all this stuff in my head that I felt like people needed. Selfishly, I wrote it not to make millions of dollars. I don't think that that's what a book does at our stage, unless you get that kind of publisher and you pay that kind of publisher. It's more of a calling card, right? It provides another level of legitimacy, which I felt like I had, but it's just sort of like one more validation tool. And so the first part of the book is definitely more about the mental game we have to play in sales, right? Like, how do we understand? And we should be able to say that we're proud in sales, right? Like, I tell the story that, you can go to a party and someone will say, what do you do? And they'll be like, there's a doctor and a lawyer. And then we'll go, I'm in sales. And I'm like, fuck that. I help more people than doctors and lawyers fucking combined. I have trained 1,000 sales reps who brought in, and I've done the numbers, more than $1 billion in sales, which affects their lives, which affects their ability to have a house, to support their family, send their kid to college, right? Which then has another trickle down effect, right? Now, short of a doctor who may come in and do heart surgeon and save, some billionaire's life, I affect more people than they do. And I love saying this because people are like, I'm in sales and I help more people than you do combined. And they look at me like I'm an idiot. And then I go on my rant. And so I think we have to be proud. So the first thing to do is to say, yes, I'm in sales. That's the part of the book, first part of the book. The second part of the book is all tactical stuff. It's like, well, how do I have that conversation? How do I get them to fall in trust with me? I teach a thing called a respect contract, and it tells you exactly what to say and how to say it. And then, of course, create authenticity so Heidi can make it sound like Heidi versus how Richard says it. And then I get into other tactics around the real value of open and closed-ended questions. Well, the real value is that they force us to shut up, like just some realizations. And by the way, if you need to figure out need or economic impact or access to authority or timeline, which is called neat selling, which I created, well, here's a list of the open-ended questions you could ask. And then it talks about, well, what's the value of closed-ended questions? And then it talks about, different tactics, how to assign accountability to people. So it's both strategic at the first side. And then the second side of the book is really straight up tactical things that people can use tomorrow. Read it today and you'll use it tomorrow, I promise. And the last thing I'll say is kind of funny is that if someone hates my book, I'll send you your money back. I offer a money back guarantee. Like, yeah, you hate it. It's got my email address on page 2. Email me, tell me it sucks, and I'll Venmo you your money back. I like, you know, I don't think I know everything. So
I love that. So if you get the book, you can go to Amazon or one of your favorite online bookstores and grab it. It's called The Seller's Journey by Richard. So go grab that. Make sure you get that, and we'll have all the links and all the information. We'll repeat this at the end too, Richard, for everybody in the show notes.
great.
Question for you. I know that you're a passionate advocate for mental health awareness in sales. So can you explain more about the importance of mental health awareness when it comes to sales and
Yeah.
About what that means?
Yeah, and I've done a couple of research and some reports. You can Google state of mental health and sales. I've got a link that I know we'll put in the show notes. It's a grind, and I'm not saying that other jobs aren't a grind. You could be in the developer team, you could be in the marketing team. Everybody's got their struggles. Nobody gets fired for missing their goal. I don't know a single person in the development team that, oh, we've had to push and delay the rollout. Why aren't they getting fired like salespeople? Oh, that deal pushed. Why are we get pushed, we get fired? So there's a different level. And so we did a research project on this twice, and we framed it differently in the sense of like, when you were performing well, how did your managers support you? How did your company support you? Not, hey, what do you wish you could do about mental health? So we were really trying to change the narrative to focus on what are the things that are happening when it's positive, not turning this into a whiny complaining session. We still got to the same data, in our opinion, but it was framed differently because it came from a more helpful perspective. And, we found out that when people are being successful, and it does affect their mental health, their company gave them purpose. They had clarity in their job and in their professional roadmap, that they had a certain level of autonomy to just get the job done at some level, and that they had training and support. And so those are sort of the top things. There's like 13 of them. I won't go through all of them here. And when you step back and you look at that, wow, that's a very different approach to, look, no leader wants to hear, well, obviously there's one more, attainable goals. When you're successful, your goals have to be attainable. That I always like to make sure. But when you share that with leaders, now they understand what they need to do better. And their willingness to do those things better is the challenge. Right? It's not all about, well, you signed up to be a salesperson, go pound the phones and blah, 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 and all that bullshit. So that's a big piece. And this comes from a personal perspective. I've been down my mental health journey separate of sales, like in my own challenges. And I talk about it, is that, I have depression. I call it my superpower. The first part is that, I'm very fortunate. I never wanted to hurt myself. I never wanted to hurt anybody else. I just had this general blahness within me. So I had to go on this experience to figure out, for many years with a therapist. And then I realized how much it overlapped in my business life, and how I was trying to separate my business life from my personal life. And that's just not how it works. I used to say the same thing. Hey, leave your troubles at the door when you come to work. Just focus on work, and that stuff will get better because you're making more money. That's not the case. We bring our whole selves everywhere we go. Right? You get all of Richard. You get all of Heidi when I show up to the office or go to work. You don't get to pick and choose which part of me you want. And so I had to go through my own journey to figure this out, and then met some people who were advocating for mental health and sales because of the stress we're under. And that's sort of where it all came from.
I appreciate you sharing your journey down that road. And yeah, sales is definitely, it's not for the faint of heart, right?
Nope.
We're getting rejected more than you're getting hearing yeses, no's more than you're hearing yeses.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I like that you said that, you focused on that piece of it versus the negative piece of it. So when people can focus and make sure they're celebrating those yeses versus sitting in the nose all the time, which is easy to do, especially when you're under the pressure of productivity and hitting those quotas and, and things like that.
Yeah. And I'll give you the medical side of this too. When your brain hears the word no, it actually releases destructive neurochemicals. It releases your fight or flight chemicals. So your brain, your body, as humans, we are predisposed to negativity, right? Guess what happens when we hear yes? Nothing. We don't get an endorphin rush. We get nothing.
Wow.
Nothing happens at the physiological level. Psychologically, yes, we feel better.
Yeah.
So when we hear those no's, that's why no's hurt so much more. And I share this as, shameless plug. Yes, this is in the book. The important part of this is to recognize and maybe give yourselves, 2 inches of mental clarity to go, oh, when I hear no, now I know why it hurts so much. And maybe that realization here is just enough, because it's not going to stop it, but for you to go, oh, okay, now I get it. I'm just being a human. Give yourself the space and grace to allow that feeling to exist. But now you know what it is. And within about 60 or 90 seconds, your brain can shift because that chemical starts to turn off. So you have to give yourself that little bit of time frame to let your brain reset.
I love it. Love it. Thank you. I had no idea that was even the case. So that's very, very interesting. So Richard, you had shared that when you started your business and you were like, wow, you got a client for 30 days and another client, you're like, wow, I'm really onto something. And that was the success you were having towards the beginning. Can you share some of the challenges you faced over the evolution and growth of your company and your business? And then how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so I think there were a couple of them. One is there's so much to do all the time, right? And so you have to get very compartmentalized and organized, which I'm mediocre at. I'm not great at it. But I learned to color code my calendar. I learned that green, I use red, yellow, green, just like a stoplight. Green is anything revenue related. Yellow is tangential to that. And red is everything else, billing and invoicing and all that stuff, right? All those things. So example is green is me talking to clients, right? I have a light green for stuff like you, where I'm doing a podcast on my calendar. It's like, well, that's potential lead gen. So that's kind of like cold calling, not entirely, but that's like a light green. Yellow is, oh, I'm going to write my blog or my content because that's tangential to what I'm doing and drives revenue. And then red is, other stuff I got to get done, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing I had to do, the other hard part, and this is still a hard part, is, boy, where's my next client coming from? Right. And it took my wife and I about 2 years to realize that, okay, there's a constant flow of business that we'll find that's going to find us and all those things. So I think those are the 2 biggest mental challenges that I had to face. Finally, after several years, I finally got a virtual assistant. I was not great at delegating. That's my biggest challenge, I think, in life, because I didn't know how to delegate. I finally figured that out. So I have a virtual assistant who helps with things. And they help with like getting my newsletter out every week. And even she's gotten to the point now where she just knows me and writes my newsletter. I don't even see it till it shows up in my inbox. I've got someone else who now does my website stuff. So learning how to get rid of those things that are not my skill set, and that it's better to pay someone to do that so I can go do other things. I never had a mentor, never. And COVID hit, and I finally realized, like, oh shoot, because all my business was in person, right? How do I do this? How do I translate exactly what I do in person to online? And is there a difference? So I had to, those are my big strategic things at a high level of what I've had to do. Is there something deeper than that you want me to share? Or,
no, that was great, because I think the mental piece of it is important, because you need to be able to stay aware of where your mindset is and how to keep that shifting. And I really love the red, yellow, green. I've never heard anybody do it that way and color code their calendar, which I think is fantastic, because you can look at it quickly and go, okay, especially when you're trying to figure out what to focus on first. Obviously, those revenue generating activities are the ones that you need to focus on first. I'm not saying you don't get to the red. We got to get to those red activities, but you know what to focus first. So it keeps you organized.
I got rid of to-do lists about 2 years ago. I don't do to-do lists. If I have something to do, it goes on my calendar.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I live by it.
I can't do it. And then those become they fall into the color of what needs to get done. And then for color coding, I say this too, like anything that's in blue is my family stuff, and anything that's in pink is my dentist appointment or doctor's appointment. So I have additional colors, but from the business side, it's red, yellow, green.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic.
And to your point too, of like, I can look at my day and I can even tell my wife, I'm like, oh, honey, I've got 3 or 4 sales calls today. If I'm not feeling chatty at the end of the day, that's why. I have spent 4 hours on the phone with people and I'm just like talked out, or if I don't see any green on my calendar for the next week, like, I better get moving. I better go, make some cold calls or whatever. So it helps me plan out a little better at a high level.
Yeah. And I loved how you shared about, there was something else you said too. It's about, what was it? I just lost it, but it'll come back to me during that whole process. But I love the mindset piece and all the things that you shared and the strategies, and then hiring team, right? Hiring support, finally delegating is an important piece. We got to let things go in order to grow. Oh, that's it. Trusting that your next client is coming. And I think that's an important piece too. And it's back to that word trust, is just knowing that you're doing the things, if you're doing them, if you're focused on the right tasks, the right thing, revenue generating, those clients are coming. So I thought that was a big takeaway, is the trusting that it's happening and that it's coming, more people are coming. Now, as far as marketing and visibility goes, because we do need to be out there right now. The online space is saturated. There's a lot going on. We could say it's saturated. Some people say it's not, depending on where you are, what you're doing, or how long you've been doing it. But for people that are newer, for people that are newer, it could feel like it's very overwhelming. What are the marketing things, the visibility things that you're doing that you feel like are working? And what are the things that you've done, maybe you felt like, that's not something I'm going to continue?
Yeah. So I started sharing and posting content online in 2012, 13, 14, right? And I did it because I lost that job. It was in between losing my job and then starting this business. And part of it ended up being my mental, I had a regimen of, like, when I was looking for a job, I got up in the morning just like I did, right? Fortunately, I had younger kids, so they needed my help at 7 or 8 in the morning to get them up and running and out the door. But I tried to keep my routines the same. I went to the gym, same routine. I came home and I could only look for a job for about 3 or 4 hours a day because my brain would just be mush. And then I started spending time on LinkedIn and answering people's questions because they were, or engaging in the conversation. And that was really great for me emotionally. Like, wow, I have something to help somebody. Right? They say all the time that, if you're ever feeling down, go help someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Call someone and just say, hey, Heidi, I don't know how you're doing today, but if there's something I can do for you, let me know. Right? And Heidi might say, no, I don't have anything, but thanks. Right? Well, I feel good that I'm trying to help somebody. So I sort of played this game. I had no idea I was going out to do social marketing and all that stuff, So that was sort of an interesting how I fell into it. And then, one begets the next. And I just spent a ton of time on LinkedIn, and I built up my following and my connection requests. And, so for me, that's how it worked and how it started. And I realized that was a big part of why people were choosing me. I also partnered with some of the right people in the business and the industry to help get my name out there. I think that's helpful. So at some point, just get started, and who cares? Right. You know what I mean? Like, I guarantee you, anybody who's listening to this, if by chance, and I say this very, sincerely, like, which I, if you, there might be one person who might know who I am, and I'd be appreciative of that. I'd be willing to bet they don't know what I posted 3 days ago on LinkedIn. So don't worry about your social media, right? Just get it out there, and your voice will find you, and you will find your voice. Don't worry about, well, should I do video? Should I do TikTok? And should I do Instagram? And just pick one. Just start. And then learn how to repurpose your content. So if you go heavy in video, there's no reason you can't take that video and then turn it into a blog post, or turn it into a LinkedIn post, or share it on TikTok and share it on Instagram, whatever it is, right? You can repurpose your content, right? Like, Heidi, you and I both have podcasts. The biggest mistake I've made is I've got 450 episodes of my podcast. Guess how many blog posts I've written off of each of those episodes? Maybe one. How stupid am I 6 years later to not have created content around this thing? Same with video. Like, I just never fell into video. I'm working on it now. So one is start somewhere. Don't try to do it all, is my opinion. Focus on it. Try to get better. And make sure at the highest level, because there's always this hesitation around, gosh, what do I have to say? I'm not confident about it. Remember, there is no other you. You are the you of you, and you have knowledge to share. I say this all the time. I have SDRs who are 23 years old, coming out of college. They're like, Richard, you're so helpful and all this stuff, and I'm afraid to say something. I'm like, dude, I don't know what it's like to be 23, coming out of college, looking for a job. I couldn't tell you what that feels like. So if you shared your story with me, I would learn something as a Gen Xer. You always have something that others can learn from. Sure, it might help some other people who are 23. Sure, it might help somebody who's going to graduate next year. But it's going to help people who've been around for a long time too, because we don't know.
Right.
We don't know what the job market's like, right? We don't know what it's like to be Gen Z and be, tens of $1,000s in debt and can't afford to buy a house, but you want to. I don't know what that's like. There's a lot of people like me who don't understand that. And to teach that to me or teach that to Heidi, to give us perspective, that's how you pay it forward in a certain way. So don't feel like you don't have something to say. I promise you, you have something to say from your own unique position, your own unique point of view, and it will help the world. It really, really will.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. Well, Richard, how can people find you? We're going to run out of time and I want to make sure. So if people want to connect with you, how can
I'm crazy. Yeah. Here's the crazy part of me. Get a pen or a pencil or go back and hit rewind. 415-596-9149. 415-596-9149. It's my real cell phone number because I know it's the one my kids don't respond to when I text them. Right, Heidi?
Right. Yeah.
They're like, Dad, I don't
Boys
text
are different
anymore.
than girls. I gotta you have two boys. I have a girl.
Yeah.
My girl does respond. My boy.
Oh, good.
No.
Yeah. You just get the grunt.
Unless he needs something. Then I hear in caps, Mom.
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah.
Another bubble. Mom. And I'm like,
right. Are they broing you? Are they broing
they bro
you?
me. Girl. My daughter's like, girl. That's what she calls me. I go, I don't know who your girl is, but I'm your mother.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I hear they call each other bro. They do.
Yes. So anyway, so that's my real cell phone number. Text me to let me know this is where you're texting me from, rather than, hey, Richard, like, just let me know. But you can also find me on LinkedIn, Richard Harris. I'm the one with a silly little trademark by my name as an icon. And yes, I know I can't trademark my name. Those are the two easiest ways,
Perfect.
LinkedIn or my cell phone. And you can find me at the Harris Consulting Group if you want.
So. Yeah, theharrisconsultinggroup.com. And again, make sure you connect with Richard on LinkedIn. He gave you his phone number. Shoot him a text, give him a call. That's the first time that's ever happened to me. I think it's awesome.
No, that's why I do it, by the way, because nobody does it.
I love it. So one last, well, maybe two. We have time. If I was able to give you a magic wand and say, Richard, here, you can wave if you have one issue that you could wave this wand across and go poof, you want to get rid of it right now. What would that be and why?
Get rid of?
Yeah, if we had one issue or challenge in your business that you'd want to.
I wish, and this is not a delegation thing. It's more of a, trust me, I do very well financially. I wish I was more comfortable paying for certain things to be done. I wish I was more comfortable paying for someone to go and chop up my podcast and make videos. I wish I was more comfortable paying for someone to write my SEO blog so that it sounds like me, because that's I think authenticity matters. Heidi, you probably know that. Like it's hard to find someone who can write a whole blog post that sounds like me. Carrie, my VA, does my newsletter. She can get it 99% right. And again, if it's wrong, I don't really care, because who remembers a newsletter they read 3 weeks ago for the most part, unless it was really good.
99% is pretty good.
Yeah. So I wish I was a little more comfortable paying for certain things to be done for me. But I just, I like my money and I like it to stay in my pocket. So I think that's the big magic wand.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you all for listening today to the Business Growth Spotlight podcast and joining Richard and I. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. That's right there blaring at you. It helps us get this message out to more people, and leave a comment for Richard below, and let him know that you're going to give him a call or shoot him a text.
Yeah,
If you're listening
absolutely.
to us, on your favorite podcast platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or any of the other ones, and you can leave a review 5-star, please do so. Again, this helps us reach more people and share Richard's message out to more people, so we can help more people with he can help more people with their sales. Make sure you go check out his book, The Seller's Journey, on your favorite book online store, Amazon included. We're not plugging them. It's just where a lot of people go. And go connect with Richard on LinkedIn. Richard, thank you so much for being here today with me. I really appreciate your time. This has been so much fun.
This has been great, Heidi. Thank you, everybody. And thanks for everybody to listening and hearing some guy just to, talk about shit. So thank
Hopefully your
you.
phone starts blowing up in a good way.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you again for being here with Richard and I. If you are challenged with being seen in the online space for your business and growing your business, and you're feeling like you're stuck and everything you're doing just doesn't seem to get you the traction you want to get, go grab our free Spotlight to Scale blueprint. You can go grab that at spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint. It will give you the steps to take to get you more seen and grow your audience, and also grow your sales, which is what we're talking about today. Thank you again, Richard.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank
listening
you.
to us, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.